Okay, and we are live. Welcome to Connection with Spirit. I'm Deborah Epstein, and
I'm
this is
Larissa Russell.
so it's funny. I'm going to do this, but it might come out this way on the recording. I noticed that, like, I watched one and I was like doing this, but I should have done
Yeah,
that.
I'm here, I'm there. And it does seem to be the opposite on YouTube from what we have. So I don't know. I don't know what the right way around is.
We get all turned around here, all turned around.
True.
So, yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. And yeah, we're just going to lead off with a little exercise because we were just talking about the energies that are up right now. And, yes, we do have this really cool topic that we're going to be diving into. But I also feel like it goes together. Of course, everything goes together, right? It's all in how you want to put it together because we're creators. We can do that. But we are in a full moon energy, and it's a full supermoon, and it's a lunar eclipse. And there's some really interesting planetary alignments, which I'm not going to go into. But what I'm going to encourage us to do is just close your eyes and feel the energy and feel actually too how your body or what your body is doing with that. And one of the things that we were both talking about is purging. Not throwing up, but that if that's a thing for you, then go for it. But like getting rid of stuff in and around your your living space or in your life, or even energetically, things that don't serve you anymore, things that are like feeling like clutter. And Larissa and I both were talking about how we just kind of were doing that over the week. And we find we do a lot of things similarly when we start talking about it. So it always makes us laugh. But we thought we'd start off today with just a little like connection. This is connection with spirit, connection with your highest self. So closing your eyes and connecting first physically with your body, yourself, and then inviting that highest part of yourself in, not to bypass what your body's trying to tell you, but just to use as a resource to support you. And then just kind of feeling within you what part of your body is holding something, and how is it holding it? Is it holding it like tension? Is it holding it emotionally? Is it holding it physically like a pain? Or is it something else? Is it a thought that you can't let go of? Is it a behavior that keeps showing up that you keep getting tired of? Whatever it is, just kind of allow it to come forward in your awareness and let it get a little bit bigger. And just right now, with the energy of your soul, your highest self, make a choice. Make a choice to let it go in the energies of the full moon if you're ready to let it go. And this could be anything physical too. You may look around your room after really getting this awareness, getting chills. So a lot of you guys are probably getting some big stuff coming up. What are you ready to let go of? And just see yourself letting it go. Whether you do it or not right now, just see it happening. And because you can see it happening or perceive it happening, that it's done. You've done it. And so it is. It is so. Because you said so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much a felt experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was saying, like, I had something, we were talking and I felt something in my belly, and I was like, oh yeah, like I could totally analyze the crap out of it. But it's not getting me any closer to letting it go. So one of the things that, one of my mentors used to say all the time, if you need to know, you will. It'll totally come to you if you need to know whatever it was. And if you don't need to know, don't waste your time on it. It's only going to make a good story, right?
As someone who is so like I'm so much about the why, right? But I'm learning to let that go and just it doesn't matter the why. The why doesn't matter. And like you said, when it does matter, great. But most of the time it doesn't matter. And so allowing it to let go. And I could feel that release. I could feel that release as we just did that
Mhm.
very short exercise, and everything shifted. So yeah. And I even said, it doesn't matter what this is. It's just time to let it go. It's time to
Yeah.
let it go.
The one thing I want to say too about that too, because something it can be that easy, right? Like we
Mhm.
didn't have to have this big elaborate thing and I didn't have to like go into this big deep connection, although sometimes that helps
Mhm.
get you there. Um, but it's not a linear process when we let go. Sometimes in letting go of something that comes to your awareness, it's just the cover for other things to move. So just trust the process of the energy is moving. And that's the whole like premise of a healing crisis, right? So like when you let go of one thing, it really shows like the roots of something else that's there, right? And so it's an unfolding process. And yeah, if you get a little headache or if you get a little bellyache or your shoulder starts to hurt or maybe you have a chronic knee thing, it hasn't hurt you in a long time and it started hurting again. These are all messages from your body, especially like, the knee is about, especially if it's right, it's about moving forward. And you could just ask yourself, like, okay, so I took this cover off and now I can move forward. So maybe my knee's a little shaky about moving forward, or it's not used to moving forward. So it's just like a muscle that we haven't used in a while. You get sore when you start to use it.
Mhm.
Be
Mhm.
careful about the stories you tell yourself when your body starts talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we will make up all sorts of great things about what's happening and why it's happening. And
Yeah.
Carol, I just wanted to, I saw your note there, and anybody who wants to join in our conversation, please do. Yes, getting into clutter clearing and cleaning up diet as well. And all
Mhm.
of that, goes together. It's just clearing the way, and letting things go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, making space for what's new. Like we are in a collective transformation. And I feel it's really interesting that whether you are consciously creating that for yourself or alongside that energy, or you're just kind of like happy-go-lucky and you're not into any of this stuff, it's happening for you anyway. Because that's consciousness, and I think that's, when they talk about being awake in the dream, that's what they're talking about. It's this, we're all dreaming together, and how we're experiencing the dream is what's the uniqueness part of that, your perspective and your perception, which I'm going to just kind of lead us into our topic a little bit, and that, how much we all matter at any age. And, especially like, and I'm getting biased about this because I'm getting up there in my years, and what I notice about that is, well, first of all, I'm not telling myself a story that I hear my mom saying all the time, like, well, I shouldn't have to be doing this at this age. And I'm like, well, what age should you be doing that at? Or, it's like, why do we have that distinction about like what you can do at what age, right? I
Hmm.
think, and for me, it's always been like, I'm always shocked when I like really look at my age and I'm like, how did that happen? So I don't know if that's disassociation or disbelief or just doesn't mean anything to me. I really think it's more that last thing. It just doesn't mean anything to me because it's never been about age to me, and if anything, I've always felt more coming with every year that goes by. It doesn't have to do with the numbers. It's just another year of expansion for myself, another year of becoming more of who I am. And so
Hmm.
it's more of a freedom and empowerment sort of walk than like walking myself into the grave.
I've totally felt that. I've never really worried about, I don't know, the age as in, you have to be a certain age or now you're too old for that or whatever those
Mhm.
stories are. But as I've aged, like I remember turning 30 and like finally I'm an adult. I felt like, oh, I finally became an adult. And then 40, it's like, okay, like life's getting like to a point. And then 50 was like, oh, okay, this is the best. Right. And as I'm approaching 60, it's like, and yeah, I just feel like every year is more. wisdom, more growth and expansion and more life.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, it was just a treadmill. And so it didn't feel like I was living a life. I was surviving. And
Mm-hmm.
as I've aged, and I was lucky enough to have my kids young and have years after, and I've had a number of things in my life, but as I've experienced and grown and expanded on what I know of myself and really worked on who I am and why I'm here, all of those things,
Yeah.
that I have just really embraced the fact that, oh, okay, let's just keep going. I remember when I first met Tammy, so we've been together about 8 years, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like 74, that's it. Like, I don't want to do anything, Pat. Like, dibs out at 74. That was my max age. And now I'm like, I don't know. I can't even imagine, like, whatever, whenever, right? As long as my health stays, which is up to me, then it's just like keep going, keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that we're talking about is the belief around, the minute you're born, your body starts to die. And it's like it's commonly held within us. And that's not a conscious thing. It's the unconscious I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And you can see evidence of it, in your body and certain behaviors and stuff like that, even though like, consciously I go, no, 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 my body's here. It's an organic thing. And so like it's about life and thrival. And I happened to be listening to Ram Dass, an old Ram Dass talk. And he was talking to everybody and he was like, so like right now, your physical body, because he was talking about the investment we make in our physicality, so at the time,
Hmm.
that was probably like in the early 70s, right? And he said, right now your body's decaying. You're living in a decaying body. And I was like, oh, I had such a hard time hearing it. Like it physically upset me to hear that. So
Hmm.
I feel like, oh, well, that's how far I've come in that belief. So I think it's what we need to look at when we have a belief is the acknowledgement that yes, there's the consciousness, the conscious belief, like my awareness of it as an existing operating system in there, right? That I'm working on through experience, through lived experience to show me, to teach my body that it is not a vehicle that is going to break down and decay, that it can actually support me and support myself and the mission I'm here to do as a soul for as long as I want to be here. And when my soul says it's time to move on, I can just leave it. It doesn't have to break down for me to leave it. And that's radical because we do create illnesses and things to get us to leave.
Mm.
you know and
Consciously, we're not all just like, oh, okay,
no.
now I'm gonna, but subconsciously, this is exactly what's happening because we see that aging process as our time is starting to wind down.
Hmm.
And as I'm realizing, you know, here I am, getting closer to 60 and realizing how important our health is. Because without health, you can't do anything. And have I looked after myself and my body my whole life? Absolutely not. But
Hmm.
more and more, it's becoming a priority to do so in the fact that there's no reason why my body has to break down the way it has been,
Hmm.
right? You look at some of these amazing older people
Hmm.
and, running marathons at 100 and,
Hmm.
jumping out of a plane at 100. And it's like, they don't go, oh, yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? There's no reason why we can't do that.
Yeah.
If we put that energy into living
Hmm.
instead of dying.
Right, exactly. It's where it's like an investment of your energy. Where
Hmm.
you invest that. It's funny that you say that because I just had a client reach out to me today that she's training for a marathon and she's well into her 70s, you know. She's like
Mm.
needs a little tweaking, it'll need a little help with that. So it's interesting to me too that like there is a strong mindset out there right now. We see people like that. So those are the people we want to look to for our role models when we hear things like, oh, your body's decaying and you're just gonna like curl up and die. And or you have examples, like I have examples in my life of people that are not really aging, or they're in like a very sharp decline in
Hmm.
their life. And it's, you know, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and Carol said here too, I wouldn't put a cap on age. I'm 75 and thriving.
Right.
Exactly. And keep thriving.
I
That's
always
the best
said
way.
when I started doing the work I was doing, when I really found it, and I was kind of in my 40s when I was like, yeah, this is the stuff, right?
Hmm.
And I felt like it took me so long to get there, to find this is like the expression of what I'm here to do. Why on earth would I only do it for 10 to 15 years and then retire and do nothing? To me, it's like this accumulation of wisdom and information that has so much value that helps others move through whatever they're moving through. Why would I stop doing that?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Because it does, it takes us our whole lives to build this expertise, if you will. And
Yeah.
I don't even, I feel like that's sort of a, not the right word, I guess, because I don't feel like an expert because I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning more and more and more. But why would I just stop? Why would
Yeah.
I just stop that?
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but our
It's,
culture is very much geared towards, these are the life years, these are the settling years, and then
mhm.
you retire, and these are the death years. And
Yeah.
so we have these phases that we're expected to go through. And I think we're bucking the system already
Yeah.
by doing our own thing.
Yeah.
So that allows us to do things differently. But even if you're not bucking the whole system, where can you look at what you're creating in your life, right?
Mhm.
What are you creating in your life?
Yeah. And I think what we're kind
Asking
of,
everyone out there, what are you creating in your life?
yeah, that's a real question for you.
That's right. Sorry, go on.
Not rhetorical at all.
Answer any of the questions, rhetorical or not. Please feel free to comment.
Jump on in. Yeah. We're kind of dancing around. That's the industrial revolution mindset, right? Because you're basically we're industrialized in a sense, to work in a factory. We don't make stuff really anymore. I mean, we do, but not the way we used to.
Mhm.
And where our schooling is kind of like set up that way, you go and
Sets us up for cubicle life
yeah,
perfectly.
yeah, you're a product. You're meant to be filtered into. It's like so much like the Matrix, right? It's you're grown basically to sit in this little space till we don't need you anymore, or we have to replace you, and then you can go off and have fun, the fun that you've always wanted to have your whole entire life, right? You can go
But you
retire.
have limited time because,
Mm,
then it's time to check out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have the system set up for that too. So like I put money in the system from my working years so that I can like don't have to work and I can have the support I need financially.
I
But
can
it's
sit in a
it,
rocker in a
yeah,
senior center
yeah,
and
exactly.
watch the news.
And watch the news. Yeah. Totally rot your brain out.
Yeah, but that's the way our system is set up, right? It's
Yeah.
just like you have a very short window of life. So there's
Hmm.
a very short window when you're young, and then of course you have to get married, have kids, and blah 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 blah. And then there's this very short window when you retire before you're too old for that.
Yeah, and it's all limitation because like you're saying short window, but I'm hearing limitation, 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 limitation. So it's like why are we so feeling limited? It's like everything around us is showing us limitation, 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 limitation. So it takes a very, very strong mind to be in abundance, to start fostering and creating an abundant mindset when everything outside of you is giving you the opposite message. And that is where the work lies. It's getting in community with people who want to make that shift or who are in that shift or who are talking about it. Just look at the things that like people that are on this call right now. What are the things, who do you listen to? Who are the people that you follow? And there's probably a thread running in there for you. So when you start thinking like I'm lost and I don't know what I'm doing here, like just look at who
Mhm.
what are you paying attention to? That's where your interest is. And so if you can boil that down, like looking at your behavior, what are you attracted to? What are you drawn to? What do you keep doing? automatically, but you're not giving it much credence or credit. Like that might be your thing that's trying to emerge for you. And I say that purposely, emerge for you.
And
Um,
you have to pay attention to it and you have to shift towards it, because if left to its own devices, our mind will keep us on the survival track. It
mhm,
will not keep us on the thrive track because it's too scary. There's new things, it takes too much energy. So we have to make the conscious effort to be on that path.
mhm,
Otherwise, we just keep going along and the years keep disappearing and we just keep doing the same thing because that's easy for our nervous system to just keep doing the same thing, right? It just wants to stay in safety. And so
mhm.
we have to change that. We have to change that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean your nervous system has to be on high alert. You don't need to up those cortisol levels, but you do need to question and then work with your nervous system to go, okay, I'm not going to die. We say this a lot in my community. Okay, brain, it's all right. I know you're doing your job, but we're not going to die if we try something new.
Mhm,
Right? We can do that, but we have to work with our system, our whole body system to do that.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you give yourself the experiences that you did it and you didn't die, it gets a little quieter, right? The next time you go to do it, you get used to it, like just in my case in point is when I first started doing this work in front of the camera, like
Mm.
it was COVID and I was in a leadership program. And the first time I did a live, I really felt like I was going up in front of a firing squad. Like I literally felt that, like every part of me was like, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. But I did it, I got over it. And then I did it again and I got over it. And now it's like, I look forward to this.
I know. we do it every week. And then it was like, we're on the call. And then we decided, hey, we should invite more people to this. And
Yeah,
so
let's
hence
make
why
it
we're here every
bigger.
month. Yeah.
It's funny. And Carol saying I embraced the great mystery. Yeah, one of the things I was going to say is like there's an importance that we, as human beings get to do is that's connecting with our higher self, that inner truth that of who we are, what we are. And that's where our freedom lies. It's not that thing outside of you. Someone doesn't have to give it to you. You can close your eyes and go within and connect vertically anytime you want to,
Mhm.
and if you're not doing it, then the next question you should be asking is like, okay, what am I avoiding? Like, why am I avoiding myself like the plague?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the shifts just as because you were talking about that. And I think I mentioned this to you before we got on the call on the live. I'm watching this show on Netflix called Another Self, I believe. Another Self out of another country. I'm not going to try and pronounce. Uh, However, the whole premise of it is what we hold in our bodies and the ancestral traumas that we hold in our bodies and how we release them and how we're destined to live the life based on those traumas if we don't release them, right? Which is really fascinating because there's so many things that we hang on to, whether it's the stories that our society feeds us or those things that, have been told to us, but then also compounded with our ancestral line and compounded with our collective energy of everyone.
Mhm.
So, which may seem like, well, we're doomed. We can't, that's a lot. But it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
As we start to recognize all of those things, then we can start to move towards what is in our best interest. What is our destiny? Why are we here? What is our purpose?
Mhm.
Right? Why are we here? We're not here to just survive and die. And
Mm.
yet so many people do that.
Right.
So many people come, survive, and die.
Mhm.
Only survive for however long. But so what is the purpose of you being here? And what are you doing to move towards that purpose? What are you
Mhm.
doing to move towards that purpose?
Yeah, I have to say, like, when I started doing quantum hypnotherapy healing, QHHT.
Yeah, no, I do that too every time I try to tell someone.
Therapy, hypnotherapy. That's QHHT.
Yeah.
And, I have been doing, I just finally hit my 25th free session. So, but in all those 25 sessions that I've done, every single person wants to know what their purpose is. And it's just like the number one thing. It's, even if they think they're doing it, am I doing it right? Am I doing the right thing? So it just shows me like how important purpose is. We
Mhm.
all, we all want to be on purpose. We all want to have a purpose. And I think where we get confused about that is the things we're seeing in the media outside of us. Here in America, being famous is a really big deal. And I just heard a quote, and I'm going to butcher it because I always do, um, from Martin Luther King Jr. about being famous and the difference between being famous and being great, and how it's much better just to be great at the thing you're here to do than it is to worry
Mhm.
about becoming famous for doing it. Because I think that's what shoots us in the foot, right? And I, I mean, I don't think I contracted to be a famous person. That comes with a whole nother set of lessons if you look at anyone that's in the spotlight.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
And how can I, in spite of that, how can I be great just because I'm here?
Mhm.
Just because I'm
And,
here and not
and
great
greatness
for
is
someone
not,
else, but just great.
it's not tied to the number of people that you help. It like being great at your purpose does not mean like your purpose could be, I don't know, maybe your purpose is to dig ditches because those allow the water to move and people don't get flooded, whatever it is, right? Like we don't know what every person's purpose is, but it's not everybody's purpose to be like a star and everybody has to know who they are and they have to be on a stage and they like yeah, exactly. There's more to it than what is fulfilling
Mhm.
and moves you through this life in a way that sets you up the best for the next one,
Yep.
right? That you've done what you've come here to do.
Yep.
What is that? And then how do you share that, the lessons you've learned? And
Mhm.
it could be with a friend, it could be family, it could be with your community, it could be with the world. It doesn't have to be, right? You don't you don't have to be that yeah, and at the top. You don't have to be at the top of the world to be
Right.
at the top of yourself.
Yeah. And that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing happening in the bigger on the bigger stage, right? Is that dominance. It's that only one person that can get to the top, the game of Monopoly, right?
Mhm.
That's what happens in a dominating society, right? But one where everybody thrives, where there's an equality, which is based more on diversity, not homogeny. Everyone gets to have an expression, and it's not about mine is better than yours. And the other thing I want to kind of point out with what you were saying too, purpose within what I've been doing. What is my purpose? Her purpose is to love. Her purpose is to learn, blah, blah, blah. Her purpose, or this person's purpose, is to do that. So, purpose and the thing that we're doing are different, but the thing that you're doing in life can be the expression for your purpose. So, it's just a little bit of distinction. So, the ditch digger, maybe that's just the expression that his purpose is going to take. And maybe his purpose within digging the ditches is, yeah, the linear stuff that he's doing, because maybe he's just the right person for that job, you know, and also whoever he's going to connect with
Mhm.
lifetime as
As
his,
he's wandering,
yeah,
digging ditches, who knows who the people are that he meets that he then shares wisdom with, that he's
right,
learned along his travels.
right.
But
And
yeah,
it's,
it's just
yeah,
the
it's seeing that we all matter. And it's like the word important. It's not that we have to get rid of like the comparison piece of that, right?
masculine energy of, stepping on
Better
someone
than,
to
greater than, better than, more important than,
Yes.
right? Get rid of than, right? Get rid of it and just be in your own greatness and let it shine forth. And that, like, it doesn't matter really what you do, or
Mhm.
because it's going to ripple out. Your presence changes consciousness because you're here, you know? there are actually some people on the planet that are just meant to vibrate at a high rate of at a high rate of vibration, because their vibration is helping to shift the vibration of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you may never know who they are. And
Yeah. Yeah.
they may never know that that's what they're doing. They may not have a conscious knowledge of that. They may not,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just here to hold the vibration or raise vibration. And so that's actually kind of freeing if you knew that. Like, you're just here, Larissa, you're just here to raise the vibration of the planet. It doesn't really matter what you do. Takes a lot off your shoulders, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't you can
Yeah.
do it, you can do anything. What do you want to do? Right? Because it doesn't matter, whatever you do, you're going to just raise the vibration of the planet. You're just going to do it.
And for the most part, I have to say that that is how I live my life, in
Hmm.
this space of doing, sending out love, doing the best,
Hmm.
and just what's the right the words are escaping me because it's like a felt experience of shared energy that, yes, I'm learning, growing, expanding, and I feel the need to share in ways like this. This is why I do what I do.
Hmm.
But it, not every piece of what I do gets shared, but it's still building that energy. It's still building that vibration. It's still, the frequency is still there,
Hmm.
right? And it's expanding, whether I share every bit of it or not,
Hmm.
as everything that I do comes from that place. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Nailed it, right? Because it's the state of being that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're it's we get so wrapped up in the thing that we think we're supposed to be doing, that we forget it's more about how we're being in that, within that thing.
Mm-hmm.
That, the way you said it was just beautifully expressed, I think, you know.
Good thing a transcript will show up tomorrow on that because I'll forget.
Right, right.
YouTube's good that way. Yes. Part of
Yeah.
what brought all of this about, and I don't remember exactly where we started with the conversation, but as we were talking about aging last
Mhm.
week when we were chatting, and the expectations of women,
Mhm.
and and all of those things, and we specifically work with mostly women who are shifting priorities
Yeah.
from doing for everyone to doing for self,
Mhm.
because it's a necessity
Yeah.
in what we've been talking about, right? To be able to do, to find or move into, expand into our purpose,
Mhm.
expand into that vibration, we have to spend that energy on ourselves.
Mhm.
And our very masculine energy world is against that. Right? First of all, women, lesser class. Second of all, selfish. You know, you're here to look after everybody else. But it's a necessity for things to shift, not
Mhm.
just for our own selves, but for the collective, everyone, men, women, and children, for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Collective energy. And we have to do that to be
Mhm.
able to shift things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of making me think about someone that I met doing this work. When I first did my very first summit, one of the guests that I had on there, her whole work is about putting yourself first. And she has like the Me First movement. And it was kind of a play off of the Me Too movement,
mhm,
you know, and how and sometimes we get to be radical in the work that we're doing, because we have to shift our language in order to shift consciousness.
mhm,
And when we start talking about things differently, when we start reframing our language, that's when we know we're like kind of in the midst of the shift. And so when you start looking at all of the influencers out there that are doing spiritual work, that are putting, getting out there, it's empowering each other
mhm,
to use our voices, to speak our truth, or speak what's true for us, right? and I don't want to own it. I don't want to call it mine, but it's like speak what's true, speak your heart, all of those things that we're not seeing in what's mainstream or has been mainstream. And it's almost like there's two movements out there right now, right? And that might be the chaos that we're part of the chaos that we're feeling is this movement of like, and it's fear, right? It's like, oh, too much freedom. They're going to get too much freedom. And then what's going to happen? And what are we going to lose? Because they're looking at it from a place of like, we're going to lose something because that's limitation. Because if you have your power, then I have to lose my power. And I can't have that. So I'm going to have to fight to keep my power. And so I'm going to create this whole big thing that makes you feel that the only way you're going to get power is if I can provide that for you. So power from a source outside of you versus like personal power. And we've gone too far in consciousness to buy that one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we see that on a daily basis now, don't we? And it's the very masculine energy, feminine energy. And again, not men and women. I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about energies. But our world moves in a very masculine energy dominance. And
Mhm,
that's why we often see that fear, right? Is like if things shift and change, I will lose power. And if
mhm,
I lose power, then you're going to be power, you're going to, power over me. And that's exactly the opposite of feminine energy.
mhm,
Feminine energy is that collective and the self-care and the working together, the collaboration. And so the fear coming from that masculine energy is that it's going to behave in the same way.
mhm.
But the feminine energy behaves in a very different way. And so we just, more and more of us are figuring this out.
Yeah,
And
and I think it's
collective energy is growing. Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge that we're figuring it out. We're learning about it because we haven't lived in a world like this before, right? We haven't lived in a world where feminine energy is a driver, maybe years and years and years ago, but right now
Yeah.
is we're here and alive right now in what we're in. And I was, talking to a client the other day and she was talking about how she really wants to get together with women and then it's the but da 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 da, right? And it was all in the but da 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 was where we did our work because it's like we have to see that where we're judging others, and how judging others and even ourselves creates a separation. And
Mhm.
that when we're in with a group of women and we find ourselves judging, it's not about making yourself wrong or bad for doing it. It's noticing it because that's the dirty little secret, right? Is that we all judge. And the
Yes.
judgment is the thing that keeps us in the status quo. It's when we judge and then we to try to deny that we're judging, right? We haven't shifted the behavior. We just chose not to listen to the voice. So I'm going to call this out for myself. I'm totally judging that person. What is it about that? What is that person showing me that I didn't want to see in myself? It's not about the judgment, it's about the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
What is
we're
it?
going to judge, right? That's it. That's the, again, the brain, the safety mechanism. It's like we need to judge to be able to know that we're safe in our surroundings. But what do you do next? What do
Yeah.
you do after you judge?
Yeah.
And do you stop and go, what's this about? Or, oh, I recognize I'm judging. I don't
Mhm.
actually believe that. That's my go-to because, safety. Or I think I do believe that. Maybe I need to explore that more, right?
Yeah.
I need to explore that more.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
catalyst for growth, but if we don't even can't even admit to ourselves that we're judging, and that's radical honesty with the self. You don't have to go around telling everybody I'm judging you because you're just going to make
Yes,
that poor
please
person
don't.
unconscious. Someone had said that to me one time. I just want you to know I'm judging you right now. You are. What am I doing? I didn't need to know that.
Yeah. Yes. To all the trolls out there who feel the need to share that you're judging, you do not.
There's honesty and then there's stuff we don't need to know.
Honest with self. Honest with self.
Honest
I
with self.
recognize that I'm judging. What do I need to take from this? What do I need to learn from this? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, there are religious, influences, judge not lest ye be judged. There's like a little fear in that one, right?
Hmm.
But it's I think it's like more of like the judgment and holding something against someone in judgment, like you're not letting them off the hook. I think that's the degree that that kind of means. But I mean, we're always in judging like discernment all the time.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
we have to. We
yeah,
have to move through the world.
yes.
So stopping ourselves from judging is not going to happen. It's
It,
what do we do with it once we judge?
yeah, so
Then what
taking
happens?
shadow, bringing it into the light and balancing it for ourselves, right? And however that looks for you. How do I want to use this, right? And
Mm,
the judge is an archetype, right? And some of us have like
a
that archetype.
stronger one.
Yeah, I have the archetype of the judge. And then what is that judge doing inside of you too? Because you had said something earlier about like the how we're talking about others or something like that. And what are we saying about ourselves? And
Mm,
that's the inner judge, right? The inner critic, we call it, right? The thing that's, the negative self-talk that that's always running around in your mind that's stopping you from doing the thing. Because if you put it out there, that thing that you want to put out there and you think it's really good, right? But then your judge comes up and says, oh, who do you think you are? And then you listen to it, right?
hmm.
Or if you put it out there, you're wondering how many people are saying, like, who do I think I am? And you're just torturing yourself for
Yeah,
don't
and
really,
your body, your mind, like every cell in your body is listening to that,
yeah.
right? And so of course, the more we do it, the more we feed into it, the more it's going to happen because every cell in our body is listening to that.
Hmm.
And so how we speak to ourselves is vitally important. And yes, before we started, I was saying, and then how we speak about others, because we only know self, right? We only know self. And so if we're speaking of others in judgmental or harsh ways, then that comes back on us as well. And our cells are also taking that in.
Yeah.
So, what energy do we want to put out in the world?
Hmm.
And the more you can talk to yourself in that positive, and it takes practice,
Hmm.
we all catch ourselves. The go to is going to be to beat ourselves up, but it takes practice. Not but it does take practice.
Hmm.
Allowing that practice to happen without beating ourselves for having the practice. And then also recognizing that every word that we say is being internalized.
Hmm.
And that's on our own self. So
Yeah.
as we were talking about aging and talking about how, we have to look after our health, this is vitally important. Why do you think our cancers are so rampant?
Hmm.
Because of the way we talk to ourselves, the way we treat our internal systems, and
Hmm.
not just the foods that we eat, and I mean those all play a part as well, but the traumas that we carry and we don't do anything with, the things that we ignore, the way we talk to ourselves, all of those play into the diseases that we have.
Yeah.
Cancer is one of the biggest ones.
Hmm.
All of that is a cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, and even cancer is a message, you know.
Hmm.
It's not meant, to kill you, even though it can, but it's your body is trying to tell you something. And if we start looking to our body as it's really trying to communicate with me instead of it's trying to kill me, it's going to take me out. I just know it, right?
Hmm.
It's not meant to be that way. That's just how we grew to understand the messages, because we move away from pain and we move towards pleasure. And if something is painful, then we have to give it a story that, keeps me away from it. But like if you think about your body like just crying out for your attention, and if it were a baby, would you just let it sit there and cry?
Hmm.
Right? Or would you like finally just go, "Oh, wow, sweetheart, what's going on? What are
Yeah.
you what are you crying for? What do you want? What do you want me to know?" And you may not know. This is the part because people will go, "Oh, I don't know," right? Sometimes it's just in the attention you start giving it. You're starting to open up a doorway or
Hmm.
a communication or a relationship with your body that's different from what you used to do. And it is learning to love not just the self, but the body as the container of your soul. That without this physical representation of your energy,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to engage and interact with any other thing that's physical. So it's part of our physical experience. And so it's time to stop like making our physical experiences bad or wrong in the 3D. We're always trying to transcend 3D. Well, I'm sorry, we all got birthed into this 3D reality. So we're in it. And so what are you
Mm-hmm.
going to do now that you're here? You're going to fight with it, make it wrong, make yourself wrong for being here. It must be some sort of mistake. Nope, there's no mistake. You chose to be here. So what do you do
What are you going to do now?
now?
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, what are you going to do now? And I was just looking at, I had written out some notes that, things that we had talked about last week, and the word menopause keeps
Oh, yeah.
flashing in my
We did talk about
peripheral there. And
that.
it's like we keep skirting around it. And just thinking about, being postmenopausal now and the amount of effort that goes into our this, this systems that we're going through menopause. And you had made an interesting comment that last week, no one here heard it, but last
Yeah.
week we had been, when we were talking about it,
No,
about menopause and um, hot flashes and sort of like what are we processing was
yeah.
the essence of it, which I had come to previously and hadn't thought about until you brought it up as well. And the symptoms that we have, right, as we move through menopause, and what is that telling us about what we're going through,
Mhm,
right? As we're shifting, it is a physical, but there's more to it than that, right? There's more to it in what we're, as women in menopausal age, premenopause, through, so perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And as we go through those, there is so much more than just the physical, right?
yeah.
We see the physical, our medical system looks at the physical,
Mhm,
but the shifts that we are making, what are we tuning into?
yeah.
And the women that are in my life, we're talking more and more about the energies of that, right? The energies of shifting through that
Mhm,
and what that is as an energy versus a medical system.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
I just wanted to open the door to that. I know I kind of jumped over, but it just kept popping. And I'm like, obviously, I'm supposed to say something because that's the one word that keeps,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
popping into my vision.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you are bringing it up too, because I did want to talk about this. And I think what started us off on this conversation was that one of the things I noticed when I was in my 50s and come, entering into menopause, like how did I want to say that? Entering into menopause, it was like a freeing up of energy, a freeing up of creative energy. I noticed a shift in my mind and how I was creating and what I was thinking about. It was like, not just like sexual stuff. And it was like my body now isn't putting energy toward creating a life anymore because it's like doesn't have to do that anymore. It's done. It wasn't enough that I said I had two children in my 20s and now I'm done because my body didn't stop, you know, making making space and putting energy towards that possibility, right?
Hmm.
At 50, when I was done, it was like, okay, so I still have this energy that wants to get used. How do I want to use it? It became like I started to realize, like, wow, this is like a conscious choice. Like I can divert this energy, creative energy somewhere. It freed me up. And it was actually, to me, it was like, what a relief. It felt like a relief that and I didn't know prior to having menopause that that was even a thing, right? And that wow, I can actually choose to use creative life force energy for creating something in my life that I want to give birth to, not just give birth to an actual physical being. And so it started me down this path of inquiry and, and in creation and energy and our physicality. And I just knew that like whatever we're being told isn't accurate because it's only looking at it from one perspective, and that's the linear mechanical perspective. And as you perfectly set up, there's so many different things happening than just the physical. So what's the energy of it? What's the emotion of it? What else is going on? What's the belief system around it? And so like I think I had shared with you that I had my hormone levels tested. They're all right on. Right. So when I get a hot flash, like I've gotten it to feel it as it, comes up my spine and it gets stuck. And so it can't, it's almost like it doesn't have a place to go, this energy. So it triggers almost like a fight or flight feeling in my nervous system. And then I get a hot flash. And when I'm treating something, I know this from doing the work that I do, when I'm treating somebody and I'm working in a certain area, if I look at the body, I'll see like a hot spot come up. Heat will come up. And that's just the body telling me like, okay, I got to go there. It's called the vasomotor response. So I started to look at a hot flash like it's a vasomotor response. My body's struggling with something. What is it struggling with? And so it's always, to me, it's always about expression and where does this energy need to express? And where is it getting stuck? And is there a physical place that I can open up in my body that I can get this flow going? And then if I keep creating it this way in my body, which I am, I'll be very honest, I'm still creating it this way in my body. I'm still investigating it. The question I'm asking right now is, where does this energy want to express? Like, where am I holding back in my life? What am I wanting to create that I don't know what I'm wanting to create? Where I get in that place where it wants to be created through me. I want to create it, but this part of me that's locked in a program. When you're locked in a program, it is like you're dumb. I'll totally tell you that. It's like all of a sudden you get stupid, right? But it's like, it's allowing yourself, what I'm learning is I'm allowing myself to do one step at a time, not going so much for like the big vision, because I'm such a vision oriented person. It's like, this is the big vision and I gotta like knock down any
See it and then you run for it. Yeah.
yeah.
I would know nothing of this, but okay. Yeah.
So that to me is a shift in consciousness, right? I feel like that's the feminine energy speaking to me. And so that's what I mean. It's not about having to get it right or me needing to be right about what I'm saying right now, because I'm in mid investigation about it. Nobody knows, right? But I'm like in there asking the questions and like learning through experience. I could be totally wrong about this, right? Because it's all anecdotal and it's all just has to do with me.
Hmm.
But I don't need, like, that's what this is about. It's about your own experience and how you want to have it. And what I'm learning is like, oh yeah, you know what? One step at a time, that when I get information from, when I do a connection with my higher self, that I don't need to put it out for, public consumption right away,
Hmm.
that it may have another purpose and I get to ask how does it want to express? And so it's really, to me, it's like slowing things down and getting off the treadmill of like, I'm going to run out of time. Right. So that's another
Hmm.
part of that age kind of belief system in there. Right. And so how much of that is helping to create a hot flash, And I remember when we were talking about it, wasn't quite as articulate as this because in the time that we've spoken about it and now more things have come to light. But when we were talking about it, I started getting a hot flash. I'm like, look it, there must be something going on here. I'm getting a hot flash.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, and every, there are some energies that are similar across the board. I don't get hot flashes.
Mhm,
So, which is interesting because I overheated my whole life. I didn't sweat. I
mhm,
wasn't a sweater my whole life until I hit perimenopause. And
mm,
then I started to sweat all the time. And and now what I get is cold flashes
mm,
instead of hot flashes because I have this
mhm,
sort of low level warm. And then I get cold, super cold. And I'm like, I've never been cold in my life. I didn't even
mhm.
own a winter coat until I was in perimenopause
Wow.
because, and I live in Canada. right? I wore a sweater in the deepest of winter
Dang.
and runners
Now you
and
have
sometimes even sandals because
to.
I did not get cold. And so this is very strange for me. But, what are those energies, and looking at those energies, regardless of what the physical symptom is,
Yeah,
what
and when you
is
think
the
about,
energy that's playing out?
yeah, now this is interesting, right? Because now we're talking about elements like fire and water, right?
Hmm.
Ice, cold,
Hmm.
heat, right? And so what is that? Is there an elemental balance to this? Just another way of looking, look another lens to look through,
Yeah. Yeah.
the elements of that. And then there's belief systems, then there's traumas, right? There's I want to say female traumas, but that's not how I want to feminine, divine feminine traumas, or,
Hmm.
how we are in how we're perceived in a patriarchal society, and how I mean hysteria, where the word
Hmm.
hysteria comes from, and hysterical and hysterectomy, right? And that the idea of having all of your female parts removed is going to help your mental state, right?
Hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those things. As a woman, you go to the doctor. I don't care what age you are now. You go to the doctor and they're going to prescribe you antidepressants or some form of that for almost anything you go for, right?
Mhm.
Because it's just like, nope, you're hysterical. And, they don't say that exactly anymore, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And, I'd like to think that the system is shifting. I present information to my doctor and he tends to check it out. Doesn't always work in my favor, but he will look at it, but he will not come up with it if I ask. I had to switch OBGYNs because my woman OBGYN told me that my symptoms were not part of menopause. You talk to, any women and they absolutely were. So,
Mhm.
the system is a little bit broken, but that's a whole other story.
Think
We
about
have to look
it.
at our own self, our own
Yeah,
energy.
medical system is a patriarchal system too.
Hmm.
So even if you're a woman and you're a woman doctor, you were trained in a patriarchal system, just like all
Hmm.
of us,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
we're all carrying those belief systems within us. And so yeah, it's not going to shift overnight, and that's part of the work we're here to do. And if you're listening to the sounds of our voices, then and you're listening to this message, it's like, ask yourself, like, yeah, I may be of a certain age. Carol shares she's 75. Like, she is thriving, right? Are you here? What are you here to do? Still, have you done it? You're still here, you're still drawing breath. What else are you here to do? Not, I'm not saying that you have to go out and grow a new business. That might not be your calling. It might not be the thing you want to do. But like, how do I stay on mission? It's not about earning money, and it's being contributing and being of service. And how am I doing that? And what expression does that want to find? Right.
Hmm.
I guess more of the message I want to get across is like, you're not here just to die. And
Yeah,
we're not at a certain age that we're at. We didn't achieve all that we've achieved just to like hang it up, and
go sit in a rocker.
yeah, go sit in a rocker with some cats and yeah, ball of yarn or whatever. I know, like, the cat thing is like
I don't know. I'm starting to think van life. uh,
now.
I'm thinking, oh, maybe I want to go travel Europe in a van and explore.
Yeah.
I can do what I do from anywhere. So, anyways, it is time. So I just want to be cognizant of that. And any final thoughts before we go today?
No, it was just really, really amazingly fast.
Yes. Well, and this is a topic I think we could go on for on and on and on for.
Yeah.
And we've definitely talked about the fact that we could do that. So, you
Yeah.
know, over
Yeah.
and over, topics might come back in a different way. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And, I just hope that, like, as this goes out and people are listening to it, that it opens something up for them. And, it just gets you to think and question,
Mhm.
something maybe you didn't know was there, and that's all we can do is just keep
Mhm.
asking the questions, because it's those questions are what opens up the space. And that's my final thought.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And anything you want to share, anything you got going on that you think people need to
Yeah,
know?
what I have going on is I'm still doing personalized retreats here in Sedona, which are amazing. Just the people who are coming out are just like
They're ready to do the work. If
ready
they're
to do the
coming.
work, and the land here is just ready to support those who are wanting to do the work. It's a unique experience working in on the land. It's more than just body work, it's deep inner work, and a lot gets opened up. It's not about solving a problem. It's about creating space, and then, yeah, once you have that space, what are you going to do? So it's a
Yeah,
different approach for sure.
I
But
love it. I love it. And we're migrating to our new platform. I'm going to say we're halfway there. Only been 5 months. We're like halfway there.
a lot
So
closer than she was.
we have people over there, we have programs over there, so that's wonderful. And one of the things we're really excited about is the Empowered Living program. We had done the challenge, a 66-day challenge, and it was so amazing that we're bringing it back as an ongoing membership program to start your day with meditation, journaling, intention setting, calendar planning, and visualization. And there's some other components to it as well, but that's the main gist of the morning program. And I'm really excited to bring it back as a full-time program because it's life-changing. It's life-changing to set intention for your day like that. So yeah. Yes. Well, thank you, everyone. Carol says, thank you both. Very rich and inspiring today. Wonderful. That's what we go for. And so we appreciate that. And any comments you leave, we'd love to hear from you. And we will be back next